I'm delighted today to be joined by Karine Halimi-Guez, who is the fairly recently appointed Senior Vice President, Head of Tax for Bookings Holdings. Thank you so much, Karine, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. As you know, we wanted to discuss a subject that we're, quite passionate about at Alva International, particularly around diversity and this particular discussion around leadership, but I guess aligning it to sort of females in leadership. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today as someone in a senior leadership role for a very large corporation.
Yeah, it's a long journey. I'm an old woman.
Not at all.
So the journey started 30 years ago.
Okay.
And started 30 years ago in tax, almost by chance. But then I fell in love. And I never, like, for me, there was no question. And this is what I want to do my whole life, and don't want to get out of it because it fulfills me 200%. And even though several people along the journey tried to pull me out and say, why don't you go, to other areas of the business to grow their finance? I said, no, sorry, you cannot take the strips out of a zebra, and I'm a zebra. Having said that, and I've said it a few times, even though I absolutely am defining myself as a tax person, actually, before defining myself as a tax person, I define myself as a business person who happens to know tax. And that's why I've had a journey that is maybe not mainstream, because I've never been to advisory. I've never worked in a big four or in a law firm. I went straight in-house. And I know these profiles are rare. And I think that gave me a very different perspective on how to practice tax as an in-house tax practitioner. Been doing this for 30 years. Always multinationals, blue chip, really typical profile. Also in multiple countries. I'm French originally. I've lived in the US, and now I live in the Netherlands. So that's about.
Were those businesses quite male dominated in terms of leadership, would you say?
So definitely, I think there's an element of it. It's interesting that you're asking, because I had conversations with my daughter not so long ago about these topics. So yes, definitely. I think that I did experience in my previous company, definitely male dominated. And talking about tax, there was like, you could see, you had females until director level. And then up, as soon as you got beyond directors, it was all white, 50 plus Christian males. So and I don't think there's any ill intent, or I think it's, again, the biases are very, very strong. Again, it takes a village to try and address those way of thinking that people don't even realize that that's the way to think. But yes, I did experience that. And I think definitely the level that to me is the pivotal level is director. I think it's the level where you can see, and then this is where you stall. And where you see, and we had, back in my previous life, I was very more than involved. I was driving. I actually created an ERG, an employee resource group for gender balance, focused on gender balance. And we did a tons of work. And one of the things that we saw was indeed after director, this is where you see male directors being promoted quicker than female directors. So director is I think is a pivotal level, also because it's a difficult level, because I think it's the level where you are still very close to ground, and yet you need to start managing upward more and more. So it's a very difficult, I think, threshold to reach and to thrive in order to get past. It's like when you surf, you have the wave, the wall. You have to go through the wall to be able to surf. That's in my view, that's the wall.
Okay.
So, and I think industries can make it maybe a bit more difficult. Because you have industries that are very male dominated, so there's perception that it's not something for females. And yes, you can have that, but I think more importantly than industries, it's about the culture of the company. So to me that's the more important driver.
Makes sense. Was there a kind of a pivotal moment when you felt I'm actually breaking some of these barriers that you kind of allude to during your career?
Again, people were seeing me in my past life as, oh, you've already broken barriers because you've reached that level of managing director. Managing director already was considered as, wow, you've broken a barrier. And to me, as I said, that was not the barrier to break. For me, it was all about getting beyond that wave. Okay. And that moment, in the end I had to change company to make it happen. And find a company which is booking.com, where you can, and that's a message I think to everybody. It's important to find a company where you have a good fit with the culture, and a company where you can be appreciated and valued for what you bring to the table. And booking.com was 200% that company. Absolutely. And I was very clear about what I had on my mind, what I was looking for. And they said, yeah, great. This is exactly what we want, what we would like you to do. And it was not lip service. It was like when I said, I'm a change agent. It was not lip service. They really gave me the opportunity to do what I said I wanted to do. And I did it. And having that impact, again, it's not about titles. It has nothing to do with that. It's about the impact. The thing is, in the real world, usually the impact comes with the title. It makes it enables the impact.
Of course.
What I've been shooting for never was a title. It was the impact associated with those titles. And that impact I've had beyond my wildest dreams at booking.com. And that to me was a clear pivotal moment in my career. And as you know, not only did it happen at booking.com, but then they offered me even more with that new step to be in charge now of the entire group. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like so bold. It's bold perspective, and I love bold. And you think, oh my God, you find this amazing place where, yes, they say, go, 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 go. This is heaven when you get there. I consider myself extremely lucky and very, very grateful.
Absolutely. But just looking back, and you've kind of partially answered this, but do you think there has been times when your expertise, your leadership has been underestimated because of your gender?
It's hard to say, because again, it's the weak signals. You
Subtle.
don't, because it's not because, you know, if it was like very clear signals, it would get probably to like legal issues,
Yeah,
you know,
true. Yeah,
like
yeah,
clear discrimination,
yeah, yeah,
clear, you know, those, I think those topics, those issues are handled through the legal mechanism.
yeah,
And that's not what I'm talking about. That's why it's more about the weak signals.
yeah.
And
Okay.
it's more about the weak signals that are not even, it's not that there's anything illegal about it. It's about just people's mindset,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
society,
yeah, yeah,
and the models that have been around forever. The world was built for a society that is dominated by males. I
yeah,
mean, that's just reality,
yeah,
and the narrative started changing pretty much in the 20th century
yeah,
with women's rights
yeah,
to vote, and then emancipation, and being like becoming financially autonomous, not needing
yeah,
your husband to approve for you to open a bank account, then
yeah,
getting access to the workplace, etc. So
yeah,
you're comparing topic that started just brewing in the 20th century, so pretty much 100 years ago,
yeah.
versus thousands of years
Yes, yeah,
of male domination.
yeah.
So, of course, it doesn't happen overnight,
No, definitely
uh,
not.
and it definitely accelerates, and it should accelerate for everybody's good, because it's not about, oh, it's unfair, or it's
Yeah,
all. I mean, we can talk about the fairness, but it's also very, very pragmatically. I think it's not that I think, it's been demonstrated that
yeah,
diversity, especially gender diversity, but more broadly diversity, is like value,
yeah,
brings value and makes companies more successful.
yeah,
So I think it's a win-win for everybody
yeah.
to
Absolutely.
do things like that, um, to focus. But it's really like, again, it's um, being mindful that we're up against,
Yeah,
again, DNA, we're up
yeah,
against society, we're up
yeah,
against like thinking that has been, you know, entrenched,
yeah,
thinking that's so entrenched that people don't even realize it.
yeah, yeah.
People don't
Makes
even
sense.
realize it. So anyway, so a long answer to say, it's difficult to say, oh, this is because of my gender.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
very difficult
Yeah.
to
To pinpoint. Yeah.
mm.
But look, obviously, where you are today, you found a company as you described where you do feel empowered and you do feel that it's about you and your leadership. I just want to speak to maybe your peers. Are you sensing that their females in general are feeling that attitudes are changing in your profession, generally speaking?
You mean, so you're talking the females, the attitude of
So
females or
yeah,
males?
to colleagues or peers that that are either vying to become leaders or are leaders, are they seeing a change in attitude? What's the kind
So
of general feeling, would
so
you
first
say?
of all, so first of all, I think there's a generational thing,
Okay.
and I think what our mothers had to fight for, we had to fight a little bit less, but then we
Yeah,
had to fight
absolutely.
for
Yeah.
other stuff,
Yeah.
which hopefully our daughters, again, are starting a little bit, like, it's always one step further. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think the newest generation, the Gen Z, clearly see the world in a different way, and clearly see the world beyond the typical patriarchal schemes,
Yeah.
and they are much more comfortable with every type of diversity, fluidity, etc. So I think that generation hopefully will take the baton
Yeah.
and bring it way further than we were ever able to. So
Yeah.
in that sense, yeah, I think things are changing because of that, because of the
Yeah.
thanks to the newest generation.
Good.
I think there's also a change. It also comes with the growing realization of women in the workplace
Yeah.
and understanding, uh, better understanding the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So, and better understanding like how to play the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can change the game,
Yeah.
you can improve the game,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you also have, so there's the strategic
Yeah.
thinking, and then there's also the tactical. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
but in the
Absolutely.
meantime,
Yeah.
how can we still kind of like work it through so that we better leverage, well, the actual reality, okay?
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
certainly not about behaving as a male in under the look and the skin of a female. It's not what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, but it's just being like leveraging who you are really, because
Okay.
to me that's like the basic. You be your true self
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Be your true self, leverage who you are, but leverage it in a smart way. Like, we're not in La La Land, okay? So leverage it,
Yeah.
leverage who you are in a smart way, so that you get to where you want to go. What it
Yeah.
is, whatever it
Yeah.
is that
Okay. Makes sense.
you want to go. You want to
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Mm.
I wanted to ask you also, and I don't know if you can answer this. Are there any sort of maybe specific qualities that you feel that maybe females bring that maybe is different from male counterparts? Anything obvious, controversial? I don't know.
Well, it's a bit controversial, of course, as a question, because that's the typical, one of the things is we keep saying, let me step back. When you ask people to define a leader,
Yeah.
they will use uh, objectives and
Yeah.
qualifications and criteria that are typically connected to males.
Okay.
Assertiveness, leadership, or strength, courageous, whatever, this kind of like a strong,
Yeah.
strong personality. If you
Yeah.
ask
Yeah.
what the specific traits of females: caring, loving, mothers,
Yeah.
rounded, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolutely.
saying so. Beyond the fact that, okay, these are all cliche, I know females that are stronger than males, and I know
Absolutely.
males
Yeah.
that are more rounded and caring than
Yeah.
females.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So first, it's all cliche,
Yeah.
okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But second is, the problem is those cliche kind of trigger an almost assumption, like it triggered the way people think in their mind as who a leader can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's been so many, I'm sure you can see on the internet, on YouTube, on so many experiments where I remember seeing one about the Nordics, where you ask to a classroom, who, a pilot, like you would have, sorry, so you would have a few people coming into the classroom with their professional outfit,
Yeah.
but hiding their face.
Okay.
And so you had a surgeon, you had a policeman, well, police person. You even had a pilot,
Okay.
And then they took out, and they were all females.
Oh, really?
And the reaction in the classroom was, oh.
Surprise! Wow.
And yeah, and that
Should be.
was
Yeah.
the message, that you
Yeah.
can be whoever you want to be.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
the expectation was totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Totally different. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I think, like declustering, breaking those preconceived ideas is
Absolutely. Yeah.
probably the right way
Yeah.
forward. And I know traditionally, because I don't want to completely avoid your question, traditionally people again tend to think, oh, women are more caring, etc. Well, if it is true, then to me these are amazing strengths.
Still good
And
qualities, though, aren't they? Still great qualities.
absolutely,
Yeah.
these are
Absolutely.
absolutely amazing strengths. It's about, but again, it's about how do you leverage your strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Leverage
Yeah.
them. Don't.
Yeah.
You are caring. Lead with empathy. Nowadays,
Empathy is
it's
important.
such a key factor of success. Okay.
I agree.
Use your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
To better understand what's happening around
Yeah.
you, and to
Yeah.
better get to what you need.
Yeah.
So, whichever the qualities, I think it's about leveraging them. And again,
Yeah.
females, what I see as a recurring behavior is that females tend to think, if I work hard, things will happen.
Okay.
And there's nothing less true than that. Because,
Yeah.
yes, hard work is necessary.
Of course. Yeah.
It is nowhere near sufficient.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing that females tend to not understand. And then they come with, oh yeah, but this is not authentic. Or I recommend a great TED talk from my friend Dori Grandia,
Okay.
from EQUO, so which is the Erasmus Center for Women in Organization.
Okay.
Please, everybody, go and check Dori
Okay.
Grandia TED talk about authenticity and
Okay.
how. So they're a group of scholars, and they work on gender questions, and she basically says in a TED talk, this is a killer. When you have women, aspiring leaders, saying, oh yeah, but it's not authentic if I say that. And that is like, she explains, like, people follow leaders, and
Yeah.
you have to if authenticity means you're going to position yourself at a lower, like you're not going to be you're not going to reassure people because, oh, maybe I should, yeah, I'm not confident, and it's not me. Yeah, that doesn't do the trick. I highly recommend really watching this
Okay.
TED talk from Dory.
I'll maybe take some details and I'll maybe put it as part of this post because it does sound quite interesting. I wanted to touch on something we spoke about off camera prior to starting, and sort of balancing, a leadership role with your personal life as a female, and what your view on that was, and what advice you might give to somebody, maybe mid career level.
First, it is damn hard.
Yes.
And that's what it is about. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
And it is still way too hard.
Yeah.
Because of the social expectation.
Yeah.
And it's very hard when you fight against peer pressure, social pressure. It's like, it's not clear what you fight against.
Yeah.
Until you realize that you're actually fighting against yourself. And until you realize that the best favor you can do to yourself is stop considering that peer pressure and that social pressure as something that is relevant.
Good.
Because that's the best favor you can do to yourself. What do I mean with that? Many times I've given that advice. First, I really think, like, don't step out.
Okay.
because, and I know it's hard, but a lot of women step out
Okay.
because they think that it's not worth it. They
Okay.
think that, oh, the cost of childcare basically will eat up their entire salary.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And but the problem is if you step out, so first, coming back is difficult. It's not
Yeah.
impossible,
You're
but
disadvantaged for sure. Yeah.
it's difficult. And I read a book recently called titled She's Back, which
Okay.
gives an amazing set of, it's like it helps women who want to come back to the workplace,
Yeah.
like to accompany them and help them think about how to get there, how to position themselves after a career break, etc. So sometimes, I mean, of course, you want to do it, do it. You need to do it, of course.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
So think twice before you step out. And because if you step out and what you forego is not just the salary that you have today, but you also forego the salary of the future where you could have had promotions, where you could,
Yeah.
it's bigger than that. Okay. So
Yeah.
that think hard before stepping out.
Okay.
Part-time, the other thing. Oh, another false good idea, I think, because
Okay.
a lot of women take part-time
They do. Yeah.
and they see that as flexibility. What I
Okay.
see is, in the end, getting to do the same amount of work for less pay. That's how I see it. Because
Okay.
very
Wow.
often the women who take part-time, they work twice as hard to
Yeah.
compensate because
Okay.
they feel illegitimate. So in the end, yeah, same amount of work or more for less pay. That's the second thing. And I know what I'm saying is can be seen as not mainstream and very controversial. I realize that, but it's just honestly what I think. Okay.
It's your opinion. Yeah.
The third aspect is, I really think, to me, it's really about acknowledging that your work fulfills you, if that's the case. If your work fulfills you, acknowledge that the work fulfills you, and it's great. And when my kids were young, I would spend days at work. I was working full time, come
Yeah.
back at home at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But then when I came back, I was all for them.
Yeah.
And it was my night shift. Again, the burden of the two shifts for women. You have the day
Yeah.
at the office and then the night shift at home. And that's what we are all going through,
Yeah.
or many of us. But that time spent with my children was really the time for them. And they had a happy mom because they had a
Yeah.
fulfilled mom.
Yeah. Okay.
So acknowledge that. And the last point is outsource.
Okay.
You work, you get the money. You know what?
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
part of that money as much as needed to outsource.
Yeah.
Outsource, picking up the kids after
Yeah.
school. Outsource homework.
Yeah.
Outsource chores.
Yeah.
Outsource taking care of the house. Outsource, outsource, outsource. That's the
Okay.
point. You
Good
work, you
advice.
have money.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
So that would, and again, I know a lot of nuances come to this because not always possible. Sometimes financials do not allow
Of
for
course.
it. So
Yeah.
the outsourcing is limited.
Yeah. Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes part-time, there's a lot of things driving the decision to take a career break or to go part-time. Absolutely mindful of that. I'm not saying that these are wrong things to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's not the way I did it, and that's not the way how I felt
Yeah.
about it.
Your experience. Yeah.
And it's just my personal experience. That's the question
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
And it's really also about maybe ask yourself, if you decide to go part-time, why are you doing this? Is it
Yeah.
really because it's something that you absolutely deeply want?
Okay.
Or is it because you feel that the society expects you to do that?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
I'm
That's the
not
question.
providing
Yeah.
the answers.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. What's you? During my career, I've been very fortunate to have some really good mentors. I wondered if that's something that you felt as someone in, a leadership role that first of all, did it help you in your career? Is it something that you do or want to do?
It's, I think, one of the most important things.
I agree. Yeah.
That again, women tend to overlook. That and the
Why
other
is
kind
that?
of
Why do you think that is?
my honest answer: no
Please, yeah.
time, no
Really?
time.
Okay.
Because when you're a working mom, I think you automatically get PhD in time management because you have to be so efficient.
Yeah.
Like, you have no time for coffee.
Yeah.
You have no time for these meetings that are not real work.
Okay.
You have to deliver because then at 5 or 6 p.m. you have to run out of the office to get
Yeah.
your kids
So
and then
time. Okay.
start your second day at home.
Yeah.
You have no time. And this is why it connects back to my previous comment.
Yeah.
Females wrongly thinking that if they work hard, that will do the trick.
That's all you
And
need.
that's
Yeah.
the big mistake.
Okay.
That's the big mistake, because if you only do that, you miss out on all the soft stuff that actually are as much, if not more important, to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they just, I was like that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was like that. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
That's why mentoring,
Yeah.
being mentored,
Yeah.
absolute top priority.
Absolutely invaluable, isn't it? Yeah.
Networking,
Yeah.
being connected,
Yeah.
absolute top priority.
So,
And it helped me a lot. I was lucky enough to have especially one woman in my past life who taught me a lot, and I grew a lot thanks to her.
fantastic. Yeah.
Really, really. And then at some point, and you realize, and I continue, always trying to looking for people who can, even though they're not formal mentors, but people who I can trust, who can provide constructive feedback to me, because
Yeah.
to me that's a very important part.
Also important.
So
Yeah.
constructive feedback, so
Yeah.
that they give me a different perspective, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
very, for me, one of the biggest avenues of learning. And then you get to a point where you start realizing, I'm start having gray hair and a few wrinkles, and you have accumulated this experience, and you start having the next generation asking you, can you mentor me? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm that old. And for
A
me, this
blessing
is
and a
great.
curse.
Yeah. But I see that as a blessing, because to me,
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
best part. If you are
I
able
agree.
to then give back. And I was lucky enough to have a few examples.
Yeah.
And recently also somebody who reached out to me through TEI. I'm a member of TEI, and I'm part of the EMEA board.
Yeah.
Somebody who reached out to me at TEI, a young lady. She will recognize herself if she sees this video. And we developed a personal connection. She asked me, just, can you mentor me? I will be super happy.
Fantastic.
And we had amazing conversations.
Proactive to reach out to you as well, which takes, you have a certain confidence to do that.
Exactly. And to me, this is also very, very, this is great. When I see women doing this proactively, like reaching out, say, can you be my mentor? I find it amazing. Yes, I wouldn't have dared.
You may get many people now getting in touch. Say, you may get too many people, so have to form an orderly queue to.
I don't know about that.
And what about? So I was thinking. So I certainly in my career, the last, I've done this for 25 years, and I definitely have conversations with leaders, because I normally deal with heads of tax or CFOs. A lot of them are males, but a lot of them also are wanting to champion females, and they want more females in leadership roles. I just wonder if you had maybe any advice for male colleagues and leaders that are wanting to support and champion women in leadership roles, in tax in particular?
Reach out to me and we'll talk. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think wanting to do it is already great because it
Yeah,
means the awareness is there.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I think what we need to get to, and so second, I think it's a must
yeah,
because again, going back to you have to be realistic about the world we live in. We still
yeah,
live in a world where power is held by males. Okay, it's still the world we live in. So
yeah,
unless males themselves understand that it's again it's a positive, it's a win-win,
yeah,
and decide to make room and bring in to change things and
yeah,
facilitate
yeah,
access of females, unless that happens, I don't see how it can happen.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so I, as I said, first, I'm glad to hear that because it
yeah,
means the awareness is
definitely. Yeah,
there. Second, it's an absolute must because otherwise I
yeah,
don't see how things can
can
change.
change. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think then you have different levels.
Yeah,
You can start being a mentor,
yeah,
but then there's another level to that, which
yeah,
is you end up being a sponsor. And sponsorship is what changes everything
yeah, I
because
agree. Yeah,
sponsorship is when you talk about the person when the person is not in the room,
yeah, okay.
is when you bring forward that person for potential promotion or
Yeah,
a special assignment where the rest of the room maybe was not thinking about
yeah,
her. She was maybe not the obvious choice, but then you have
yeah,
the courage because you know that person,
encourage. Yeah, yeah,
and you have the courage to say, hey, wait a minute, there's maybe an alternative choice
yeah,
which may sound like the underdog, but actually could be the smarter
yeah,
choice, and
yeah,
push it through when the person is not in
yeah.
that,
Okay.
my friend, is what can
That's
change
interesting.
a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I guess really my last question I wanted to say in terms of how do we get more females coming into the tax profession? What do you think is a way to start that, in terms of coming into the profession? And then obviously those becoming the next leaders or next generation of leaders. How do we get them into the profession, do you think?
I think we have a lot of females in the profession.
We
If you
do,
look at
yes.
university, it's not like STEM.
No,
STEM,
no, no.
you have an issue already at the infeed, at the infeed of the pipeline, you have a problem there.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's the case for tax.
Okay.
You have a lot of, I think, more than a majority actually of uh, girls and young women
Yeah.
um, taking up careers in tax, in law,
Yeah. Law.
so
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
that at university.
Yeah.
You see that also in the early stages of the career.
Okay.
So I don't think I don't think it's a question for tax. I
Okay.
think what happens is what happens with tax is what happens with all the other I think areas or industries is the society bias and self-wiring. It happens and
Yeah.
gets in the way, and
Yeah.
then just like in the other areas you may find, well, again, less and less already director level, and then
Yeah. As you said. Yeah.
beyond director level even less.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
again, I don't see this as specific to tax. I
No,
think it
no, no,
is
no, I agree. Yeah.
it is just
Yeah.
the general tendency.
Yeah.
I think there is maybe one specificity in tax, which could be, in my view, when I see challenge, I see opportunities. That's
Okay.
usually the way I just can't help. That's how my brain is wired. If I see a challenge, I see an opportunity.
Yeah.
So the challenge with tax is It's hard. It can be very intense, and there may be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And holding that pressure when you have the punishment of the double shift, young kids at home, and juggle with deadlines and with, I think makes it especially hard to stay in the game.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one thing. But I see an opportunity. Because my experience has been that, I mean, a lot of women are actually more courageous than anybody would expect. And actually, when the going gets tough, actually you see women being so much more resilient, and holding that pressure actually better. So there's inherent pressure coming with the function. But I actually feel that there are unique qualities because we've been juggling so much. It's like, it's like you've been training that muscle so much that maybe there's an element of competitive advantage almost.
Absolutely.
To resist that. And to get through the wave. But again, it's about the awareness of women themselves. Realizing that, yes, it's possible. And yes, I don't care about that peer pressure. I don't care about society. If that's what I want, if that's what I thrive in, let's do. And if you're happy, you'll be a happy mom with your kids. And my kids are grown-ups now, and they are super happy. And actually, I think doing this makes you a role model for your daughters. And will make your daughters more daring, and makes you, and will make your sons better partners.
Definitely. I agree.
So
I agree.
It's win-win all around. Win-win all around.
The more people the more females see people that look like themselves, so to speak, i.e. other females in leadership roles, and you aspire to get to that point because you see more and more people reaching that point. That's like you were saying earlier about the mentorship and reaching out and what's your experience, how do I navigate this? I think it's so important to share your experience, isn't it? And it should, in theory, evolve and become easier. Is it? We're not quite sure yet, are we? But that's hopefully the way it will get to, isn't it?
I think it definitely contributes. It's not good. I mean, that topic is such a complex topic.
It is.
It is such a complex topic. So it really changes. It's baby steps. We should accelerate. But it takes many different levels to interact. And from the most personal levels to the biggest, like society type of levels, to all get aligned and interact to open the doors. That's why it is so difficult and so complex.
But we can play a small part in this tax profession, can't we? Like you say, it's a society. It's not just around the tax profession. It's obviously much broader than that. But Karine, listen, your honesty, as always, is wonderful, and I really appreciate you talking openly and passionately about this subject. And I'd advise anyone that if to seek a mentor like Karine, because I think it'd be really impactful. So really appreciate your time today. It's been fantastic, Karine, and wish you every success in your new elevated role, as it were. And thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Alister.
Thanks, Karine.
Thanks for having me. Take care.